Hello everyone, I'm hoping this is actually working. Now today I have set this up a little bit different to I normally do the live stream. Whilst you have me here, you also have me up here. Now I've been playing with a little bit of equipment and I've been picking bits and pieces up, and really the idea of this is for me to be able to do some of these live streams a bit differently. Yes, we had the intro, I think we would call it, the rundown, probably a bit long at 10 minutes, so thanks to everyone who held on. Now, the way I've got this set up tonight, and I'm hoping this is working, so I need a comment from someone to tell me that this is actually working. And it was like watching SpaceX countdown. Thank you, Bruce. I do appreciate it. And I see Tim. Hello, Tim. I hope you're well. So, tonight is a little bit different because I've set this up in a different way to I normally would have, mostly because I've been spending a little bit of money. Now, I actually have 3 cameras set up tonight, not quite the way I want it. I wasn't actually able to get all of the equipment I wanted to get because of COVID is affecting stock of this sort of stuff, believe it or not. However, what we have tonight set up is we have my normal GH5 over here. I have my Sony, which is on the table here, which I can switch to at any time and say hello to you guys there. We've got the usual desktop connection, but I've then also got a camera on the bench. And the idea of this one is to start being able to look through and show you guys some stuff. Now, the downside tonight to this camera on the bench is that this one is a webcam and it is not very good. So if the light level is, I've had to put another light in from the roof up here, but it isn't particularly great. Now, the long-term plan with this is to have a proper camera over there as well and to be able to do it easily. Now, I picked up a Stream Deck and that's what's allowing me to do this switch in between the cameras. I'm actually going to pick up the GH5 and I'll probably stick it over there a little bit later as well, basically. But yeah, that is the idea of the setup. So for me, the goal in this is going to be able to jump between a couple of places, but I might even start recording some videos this way as well. And Bruce will probably know what I mean by this. Is you lose a lot of time in edit, a lot of the time, huge amounts of time in edit, and it can make life a little bit easier if I can do some of the more not simpler stuff, not sort of talking videos, but showing videos that way, and have the ability to switch between the cameras, look at that one there, shift over to the computer, then bring up the ones on the screen with the stuff I want to show you on here as well, because we've got some stuff on the screen as well. So I can bring this up, so I've got all my windows in the right places. So I can show you guys this one as well to bring it up that way. So I've got it set up quite nice. So hopefully, yeah, and that's the plan with this basically. Now, just to explain some of the equipment, I'm trying to remember. The downside of this is remembering which camera is which. Okay, just to explain some of the equipment that I'm using for this. So I've got my Panasonic GH5 to an Elgato HD60 over here. Now that's the HD60S, which is the USB one. I have just bought another HD60 Pro and put it in the PC. And then I've got a long USB cable skitting round going over to the camera over here, which is looking down on the gear. Now, I do want another camera input. I want a cam link from Elgato. I don't need a HD60 that level. They're quite a bit more expensive. But believe it or not, all of this gear is out of stock. You cannot get it anywhere. As a result of the human malware situation, it has affected supplies of all of this equipment. And I was lucky to get what I managed to get. Anyway, to get on with what I intend to do tonight, first thing I want to do is jump into the comments. So let's have a look what abuse. Above and Beyond, that's pretty good. I've loved it so far. I've had some quirks, I will be honest. The odd crash, and I'll get this in there now. There is a very real possibility this could all go off at any point, because the downside to this system is it is all going through that. And there is always the possibility of a flip round. Now you'll notice I've got the cover off the PC tonight, and that is simply for cooling. The temperature here is quite high, a lot higher than it usually is in the UK, and that's what's probably that's what's made me take it off to get some more airflow through it doing this, because I've had a few problems today. So what are we going to do today? The idea today is we're going to take a look at my Rover build, which is the one on the bench. We're going to have a look at it. I'm going to go through what I've done, and then we're going to take a walk through the basic setup in Ardupilot and just take a look at a couple of things that catch people out on it. The idea really isn't to do it as a tutorial, but just to have a walk through it like that. We're then gonna have a look at some other stuff. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about NASes a little bit, storage. I don't know, I need to speak to Bruce actually on this subject as well and talk a little bit around what he's doing with a lot of his footage. Because something you find as you're doing this, you build up huge amounts of data, and I'm beginning to get to the stage of I've got that much, I'm having trouble storing it, and a lot of it isn't backed up well. So I'm going to be talking about NASes a little bit as well, and then we're going to just talk about a few things that I've seen. Now, if you guys have any questions in this at any time, please let me know. Chuck them in the comments. I've got my phone in my hand. The idea of that is that I can see them. So the idea is I can answer anything that we've got. So let's have a look what we got. We've got Bruce. It's great to see you, Tim. I see you got my message on RC Groups then. Hope you are well, my friend. We'll have to have a catch up sometime. Hiya, Martin. How are you doing? I hope you are well. Type Wolf was even with 1 megabit on the go. Cool. Thank you, Type. That's cool. Awesome. It is. You know, it's a great shot. I do like it. If I put it up, once I get the proper camera on it, it's going to look great. Lighting is a bit of an issue, but it is going to look good once we get the proper camera up on it. So hopefully we're going to do that. XJet, yeah, at least 15 degrees, Bruce. At least 15 degrees in the UK at the moment. I'm going to switch back to this one. I haven't quite remembered which one is which. That's something I've got to learn. Now, I'm doing all this switching on the Elgato Stream Deck. I'm really impressed with that, honestly. Massively expensive for a button or set of buttons, but it works really, really well. So we've got that. Nice chair. Yes, thank you, Bruce. I got a video coming out on this chair again. If you're interested, check it out. Hi, Phil. How are you doing, mate? Hope all is well. Okay, now, before I get on to having a look at the Rover, I just want to give you guys a bit of an update on the channel, really. Let me bring it up. I want to just give a bit of just talk about it for a moment. Let's go to the desktop. Okay, so the channel really has been growing a little bit over the last couple of months, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about where I'm at with it as much as anything. I've been very lucky in the last 6, 7, 8 months, or no, it's over a year now, that I've been able to spend a bit of time on Tuesday night with the likes of Bruce, Gary, Louis, Nicola, those guys, and it's been interesting for me to be able to spend time with them and listen and learn. You know, Bruce is often silent but deadly, and I'm really pleased with how things have gone. Now, the channel hit 12,000 subs about a month ago, and it's given me a bit of time to reflect really on a few things and where it's at. No, yes, it's back. I know what's wrong. It's the one thing that's giving me jip, and I need to solve it. I know what I need to do, I just didn't want to do it. Okay, I assume that's back. I can see it back on my side, so I'm going to give it 10 seconds just to check if it comes through. Wait for the comment. Yeah, sorry. again, that's a failure of the equipment. To be able to plow audio in with all of these cameras, I'm actually putting the audio in through the PC. And my audio system I use is USB based, and it plays up. I've got to stop it. I had a feeling it would bite me at some point tonight. I've just got to keep an eye on it, and every now and again I got to give the volume control a twiggle, and it stops the system going into standby. That's the basics of it. Because it hasn't been used for a period of time, it goes into standby. Okay, so we got to 12,000 subs. And it's given me time to have a think, is what I was trying to say. And I think it was in November I said the goal for 2020 would be 20k. It's not going to happen. It was probably a bit over ambitious. For me, this isn't about, you know, getting hundreds of thousands of subs. It's trying to provide some decent content if I can. I think we've put some good videos out in the last 6 months. I think I've put some bad ones out as well, if I'm honest. I haven't been particularly happy with a lot of what I've done in recent times, and it's a tough one because sometimes you're doing stuff because you want to do it, and sometimes you're doing stuff because you think it's a good idea. And for me, the goal has always been to just try and put some information out there. That's what the goal has been. So I think for 2020, the goal is going to be 15,000 subs. If I can get to 15, I'll be a happy man, and try and keep the channel going that way. I've been disappointed in how some of the videos have done, and some of them just haven't turned out right. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Anyway, so I just want to really say, I want to thank everyone who has supported the channel for the last 6 months. It's allowed us to really get to this stage here. You know, we all make tons of money on YouTube. We all make loads and loads of money, bags of it. Obviously, there's a Ferrari outside. There's, we've got all the you know, I've got a plane, a helicopter and a plane ready for me at any time. I think it's the posters on the wall that scares them. It probably is. Especially the one up there. That one. That's the worst. And you've got to watch him as well. Remember him. He'll have you. He'll have you as well. So yeah, it's, for me, the goal is going to be 15,000. I'm going to try and do things, continue to try and provide some good info, and really just try and keep the channel moving forward. There are days where you just want to give this up and run away, and I've been a bit like that of late, if I'm honest. It's been a goal of, a thought of, what am I trying to achieve here? Why do I do what I do? Yeah, let's have a look. What do you say, TB? Yeah, I think the frustration is, the problem is you can make, the problem is actually YouTube, and Bruce will know what I mean by this. The second you stray out of anything that your channel has been built for, and you've built it up for, YouTube just fights you. You can't, it's very hard to shift, and I don't mean shift, but you can do, you know, a review on a product which you find interesting. You think it's really interesting. It's not the core content of your channel, but you find it interesting. And YouTube doesn't let that video get they will bury it under all of the other content. They won't give it a chance to be seen by the audience that video would usually attract to. And I've been more than anything disappointed on how some of the videos have gone. Some of the ones I've put quite a lot of effort into, and they just haven't picked up the views. And it's not because, it's nothing to do with you guys, because they're not actually products you're probably interested in. But it's annoying that YouTube fences you in, is the term to use, and it won't let you diverse very easily from your core audience or your core channel. And the guys that have, say, 152, 300,000 subs, for them it works slightly different, because they'll get the views to get it over a certain line anyway, and they'll get it. But it's just a few videos which I haven't been particularly happy with, and you do them and you put them up and you think, I don't know, I probably didn't do that right. But it is what it is. You can't change it. It's very easy to be critical of yourself as well on these things, and perhaps sometimes it's better to look what has done well and what hasn't done well. But I've got some new videos coming out with regards to Ardupilot in the next week. 3 of them will be landing mid this week. They're all done and ready to go, and then I'm going to be trying to get the other 3 done after that. Interestingly, Painless 360 has virtually done the same thing at the same time. It's the second time me and Painless have done this, that we've done a similar set of videos at a similar time. But I've got them coming up, and I've got some other stuff as well. But yeah, I think it's as much a frustration with YouTube than anything. And you guys let me know. I don't, you know, you guys out there, I don't know how much of this stuff you do, how much of it you play with yourself, and you can come up against barriers. And, you know, it's very good sometimes to stick to exactly what your channel does well for, but sometimes you want to do something a bit different. And unfortunately, YouTube penalizes you for that. But overall, I'm extremely thankful of the support everyone has given the channel over the last number of years. Paul scores, be right back. Okay, Rapid. So, okay. If you guys have any questions before I jump into it, please do let me know. I'm going to hop over to the bench. And what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to have a look at the Rover. We're going to have a look at the hardware on the Rover, first of all. And then we're going to take a look at it in Ardupilot. We're going to connect it up. We've got Ardurover on it, and we're going to take a walk through it and have a look at some of the main issues around Ardurover and some of the people. But again, as I'm doing this, guys, I've got my phone with me. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. And if there is anything you want me to talk about, please do put it in the comments. And yeah, we'll go from there. So what we're going to do is hop over to the bench, first of all. And I'm going to pray the microphone stays on now. Okay. This is nice to be able to do this. I quite like this. Yeah, I quite like being able to do this. This is good. This is very, very good. Okay, so for you guys who haven't seen, I've been doing a very slow Rover build on the channel. Part of the reason it's been a very slow build is because I keep poaching bits out of it for other projects and testing. Mostly Hearlink has been the biggest issue because I've been nicking Hearlink for a copter build. I need to get more ear units for it. I've only actually got one ear unit for my Hearlink system, but I do need to get more of them. But the goal now is to get the Rover finished. So what we have in here is we've got a Cube Purple, which is the Autopilot. Now this is running Ardurover. Now you don't have to use a Cube Purple. You could use pretty much any Autopilot in a Rover. The advantage is you've not got to worry about things like redundant IMUs. You're not going to worry too much about redundant sensors and things like that. It's ground-based. If it heads off into the sunset, it's not going to head off far, and it'll probably hit something long before it comes to a stop. But for me, I've got a Cube Purple because I'm a big fan of the Cube Autopilots. Look, the reason I use the Cubes is because 3 reasons for me. Number one, there's a guy you can shout up at who's Philip. If you get any problems, he's there to support. They've got a good forum, and I try to help as many people on there as I can as well. And the other part to it is it's sometimes nice to support a company who does... They are a small company. They're not just banging stuff out of China. And they're a genuine business, and they like everybody, you know, they make good equipment and they need the support. So that tends to be the reason I use them. So in this, as I said, the Rover is a Cube Purple. Now the Purple is a single IMU, non-isolated, simple as that, nothing special, just a basic Autopilot. It's then coupled onto the Carrier Board Mini, which is the smaller version of the Carrier Board. Now the full Carrier Board, there should be one of them in front of me. Where's it disappeared to? Sorry, I'm looking on my shelving. I literally moved a cube not an hour ago. Where's it gone? There it is. The standard Carrier Board is that one there. That is the normal one, which is rather large in comparison to the Mini. So as you can see on size-wise, it's quite a bit different. We've then got the Mac, I think you pronounce them, power unit. And as Phil said, does the Mac power unit plug into it? No, it doesn't, Phil. Okay, so there's 2 types of systems on the Mac. And now, if you haven't come across the Mac power units, they are very, very, very good indeed. The Cube will come with one of these, which is a standard power brick. Now this, to be honest, is good enough for a Rover. It really is. You wouldn't have too many problems with one of these on a Rover. But on a plane, I would always be using, or a copter, I would always be using a Mac system purely because of how good they are. Now, this is their HS series. And the basics with the HS series is that it connects to the battery, goes through the current sensor. You then have a BEC that comes from the battery, goes into the current sensor, out the current sensor, into the power connector on the cube. It doesn't go into the UART. All of the information is still the basic analog, digital and current sensing. So it's voltage and well, it's voltage for both. The current sensing is based on voltage as well. It's just a different level of voltage compared to the battery. Now, the PL series, and I did a video on the PL series, is slightly different. The PL series, the voltage doesn't go through the current sensor. It takes the readings from the current sensor and then goes straight to the autopilot. Now, currently, they don't do a CAN-based setup. They don't do one for CAN. The CAN ones are only CUAV do CAN-based ones at this moment in time. I'm hoping we do see a new one from them. And I saw something really quite cool the other day. They're also making a Mac integrated carrier board. So the carrier board will have all of the unit built in already. That's very cool. Very, very cool indeed. So looking forward to that. So for the power system, as I said, we've got the Mac system. So it's simply battery voltage in, through the current sensor, BEC into the current sensor, all into the autopilot on the power 1 port. Now, just like all cubes, you actually have 2 power ports. You have power 1 and power 2. And simply the idea is for redundancy. If power 1 fails, the cube will switch over to power 2. If power 2 fails, it can also take power from the servo rail as well if it needs to. Obviously, in here we have a Hearlink, which is the video transmission system. And I've got it on here next to me. And we'll take a look at that in a second. And then we've got the motor driver. Now, the motor driver I'm using in this build is by a company called Dimension Engineering, and it is a Sabertooth 2x32. Now, it does not come from the factory covered in all of that hot glue. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Let me put it up for you. I'm just trying to look at it myself on my phone as I'm doing it. Yeah, it doesn't come from the factory with all of that hot. Let me just push it forward a bit more so you can see. There you go. It doesn't come with all of that hot glue from the factory. I had an accident, okay, which resulted in me ripping the USB port off the board. Now, I not only ripped the USB port, but I ripped the tracks off as well. Let me just do something, guys. I want to just make sure my audio doesn't turn itself off again. So I've just swung over and given it a wiggle. So I was working on it on the bench. And just like the standard rule that you should always have your props removed when working on a helicopter, I had the wheels on and it decided to head off while it was attached to the computer. And it ripped the micro USB port from the port on the controller. So what I've ended up doing is doing a bodge. I couldn't solder another board on because I literally ripped every track off. So what I've ended up doing is taking a USB cable and soldering it to random pads on the board to get the USB working again. And that's a permanent fixture now on that board. Usually there is a micro USB port on there. Now the nice thing about this motor controller is you can configure it via all the dip switches. So all of those dip switches down here allows you to do all of the main configuration. However, via USB you can do loads more. You can set up individual profiles for the motor controller. You can adjust how much power it puts on and off as you increase add throttle. You can adjust expo, all of those things from within the USB, and it's really good. And you can even set the channel widths and all of that stuff, so it's very handy to have. Now, this motor controller also has a 5-volt USB output as well, which allows it to power the autopilot if I wanted it to, but I'm still using the power system. And it also has clamp outputs. Now, these are for brakes on motors or current sources. The nice thing about these is you can also use them to power certain types of electronics. And my plan is to get it to power this, which is the giant LED that's going to be mounted on the front. And that's what this little wire is here. This is a servo input which goes to the autopilot, And then that then will tell the system to turn on one of these clamped outputs. Now, the thing to understand with these outputs is they are pulling to ground. So I'm trying to remember what the exact term is. So, for instance, to use these outputs, you would connect your positive permanent and your negative via the output. And then when it's activated, it clamps it down to ground and activates the output. So the nice thing is you can actually use it as a remote control switch to control things like lights, and I've tested it with this and it works very well already. Just going to jump into the comments. Phil, I think I've answered that, Phil. Hope the Mac carrier board gives us ADSB as well. Yeah, I don't have an answer on that. I'm just going to grab my drink as well. I don't have an answer on that one at the moment. We will have to see if it is. I did see, it's a very cool looking thing though, but I don't know if it's got the ping on board too. Now, this Rover chassis is based Servo City, and it is called the Prowler. And it comes with 4 brushed motors. They're brushed and geared, and it's an ABS chassis, and that's the basics of it. And the lastly bit we've obviously got is the Here Link. And the Here Link connects into 3 places. You've got power for the Here Link. Now, I'm powering the Here Link off the servo rail, which is taking 5 volts from the motor controller, because the thing to remember with the Cube is the Cube does not output power on the servo rail. If you need power on the servo rail, you have to provide it. Even though you're powering the Cube via the module, the power module, that power does not go to the servo rail. The servo rail, though, can power the autopilot. It's a one-way from the servo rail to the autopilot. The only output on the servo rail that does get power is the receiver output, which is 5 volt. Other than that, your standard servos 1 to 8 and your aux channels, there is no power output provided by the autopilot, even via the module. So if you do need to power anything, you either need to attach another BEC, have a ESC with a BEC built in, or in this situation, my unit is outputting 5 volts and I'm using that to power the Here Link as well, basically. So that's the overall setup of the Rover. Now, I actually had this in bits earlier, so I've now literally only about 20 minutes ago plugged back in the Here Link, which was the RC channel, which is the S-Bus channel, the power and the UART. And that's the 3 wires for the Here Link. It doesn't use CAN Here Link, it uses UART still, which over Mavlink. But I haven't actually tested this, so this is going to be interesting to see if I've actually connected it up right. So we'll do that now as well. So what we're going to do is plug in a LiPo, which we've got here. Now this one's actually charged, and it's one of my LiPos that hasn't gone on fire, which is quite unusual recently because I've had 3 LiPos trying to burn my workshop down. They've all been old, they've all been here for quite some time. So what we're going to do is we're going to open Solex first of all, and I'm going to put that in view. Now, something I have just abundantly realised is this is upside down. Oh, useless am I to have not noticed that until now. How idiot is that? Okay, I wonder how I can resolve that. Like that. Okay, guys, I hope that makes your life a little bit easier. So what we're going to do is power this up and check it connects first of all before we get into Ardupilot to make sure I haven't burnt anything. We can see we've got the lights on the Cube. We've got the light on the motor controller flashing as well. I don't know if you guys can see that. The motor controller has an LED that flashes when it comes. It looks the right way up to the guy from the other side. Yeah, but it does. Just going to flick my speaker volume again to make sure the damn thing doesn't go off. Okay, so well, let me just see if this is connected. It has. Oh, hey. So we're just going to go into Solex. Now, what we need to do is connect a camera, which I haven't done yet, just to show you the video is working. The evil GoPro that keeps flattening itself. I don't know if you guys have GoPros, have this. They just flatten themselves for no reason. Now, I actually created a 3D printed bracket for this Yearling, and if you can see that there, I'll share the file for this actually, because it's quite handy. It allows you to clip it in and clip it out nice and easily. Because I've been using it for testing, it's just a square bracket with some brackets, and it's got some holes in as well, so you can see the LEDs when it's plugged in. But the idea is you can just clip it down in place and it holds it solid like that. Okay, so let's plug this in. Now the Yearling has 2 micro HDMI ports, supports 1080p 30 and 60 frames a second. That is the best inputs for it. My GoPro is saying that. Okay, so what we're going to do is go click just back a second, and then we're going to go back in. Well, hey, and we have video. So if I show you there we go, guys. Get it the right way around for you. So you can see we've got the video working on the Yearling via HDMI as well. So that's nice and straightforward. So that is the basic setup of the Rover from a hardware point of view. Now, just to explain how I've got the motors wired, because there are several ways of doing this as well. This is wired in a... Let me just remember, actually, how I wired this. Yeah, left and right paralleled wired. So left motors, right motors. Actually, it's actually left and right that way, because that's the front. Left and right, this side, which allows me to do full skid steering on it, basically, and that's the idea of it. Now, the nice thing with this motor controller is it can do both types of steering. It can do the normal, traditional kind of steering, or it can do skid as well, and it's all adjustable on the dip switches too. It has built-in battery monitoring, so even if your autopilot has built-in battery monitoring, the motor controller can also have built-in battery monitoring, and it will stop you draining your LiPo too low as well, and all of that's configured by the USB, and that's why it's quite important. So the nice thing about this motor controller is you could, in theory, not have the power module at all. You can power the autopilot from the motor controller and then program the motor controller to do all of your battery monitoring for low voltage. The only downside is it cannot provide that information via Mavlink back to the autopilot. It would stop the motors running when the battery got low, but you wouldn't have a warning of that via Mavlink. So if you want the battery monitoring within the system, like I've got here, so if we go on here, we've got the battery voltage sitting at the top, we've got the current as well. You probably can't see it. We'll have a look over there now. But that you could do away with that and simply power via the motor controller. However, the way it's currently set up, I prefer to have the power unit, because that way I'm actually able to monitor it via the ground station as well. Now, just before we hop over to the PC, the other thing that I intend to having this is this, and I haven't finished wiring it properly yet, and that's why it looks a mess. Now, this is a LiDAR, and the idea of this, it's not a LiDAR, it's an infrared ranger finder, but they call it a LiDAR. And the idea of this unit is it actually goes in the front of the Rover, and it's going to allow me to have some object avoidance. Now, I 3D printed this cover to go on the front for this, and the idea is this will go into here. I took it out the other day to film something. It goes in flat like that, and that is the thing. And then in the front of the Rover, this actually goes in through the holes in the front. Pull the wires through. And then the idea is that sits at the front of the Rover like that, and then that's going to be my object avoidance system on the, and that's how it's going to be able to navigate around things, and it's going to use the LiDAR for that as well. Now, I have already shown the top I printed for this in another video, but I will show it to you guys now. I just need to unplug the battery to do this, because the battery will be going in this new top bit as well. Now, there's a cover for this, which I've 3D printed, and it's massive. It's also missing. Is it gone? It shouldn't be able to disappear that easily. which is slightly concerning. No, it isn't. It's disappeared because I've taken it apart. And what I've actually done, for those who haven't seen the other video, is I've created this top cover for the Rover. Now, it clips together in 2 halves, and this is going to be the main top cover for the Rover, which has the hole for the GPS. It has a battery bay, toss all of them in. And the idea is that is going to be mounted on the top there. The battery is going to live in there. There's going to be a cover on top of that as well. That is where the here GPS will live. So the here will be going into there. And someone has mentioned before and said, hold on a minute, isn't that going to interfere with the motor controller being below? I'm going to foil cover all of the bottom end of this as well, just to make sure it's thing. The antennas won't be coming out of that hole. That's just to show it there a sec. And then here I'll be mounting an FPV camera of sorts, and then the light is going to go on the top of the battery box up here, and that's going to be the idea of the setup, and that's the way it's going to be overall for the Rover. So if you guys have any questions on this before I leave this bench, please do put them in the comments. I hope that if there's any questions on what I've got in front of me before we do go over to the bench, please do ask them. I'm going to just take that off. I'm going to have a quick drink because it is very, very hot. Yes, I just muted it a second while I was drinking. You guys don't need to hear that. Okay. Hopefully the audio's come back. So, if you guys do have any questions on that before we bring it over, let me know. Now, that was the idea of me having that setup, to be able to show you that like that, and I hope it worked out quite nicely. I need to get the camera sorted. The plan is to have a proper camera over here for doing this. I've created this bracket which hinges down from the ceiling for doing it. What will happen is I do have another camera. I actually bought another camera this week, which is a Panasonic G9, so that's going to be used for part of it as well. I just need to get another streaming stick to be able to do it properly, basically. But it's nice to be able to have that over there. The only downside to the webcam is it's just not very good quality. That's the problem with the webcam. It's just not good at all. Just checking out the comments. The idea of this Rover build, I had 3 ideas actually with this one. Originally, I was building it to mount a Ronin S2 with the Ronin. This is the SC, but they make for the Ronin S the bracket, which is designed for masts and things like that. So the original plan was to mount it on a Ronin S on it and have it as a bit of a filming buggy, but I don't really have the need for that now. It was partly a project that I wanted to do on the channel, but I've also got this crazy idea, which I still want to do at some point, is do a full mission of dropping a Rover into a remote location from a hex in Ardupilot and remotely controlling it on a mission, basically airlifting the Rover in, dropping it, sending the Rover off on its mission, Rover coming back into the aircraft taking off and coming back home. And it's something I've wanted to do. It's a bit of a, I'm not talking anyway dodgy, don't worry, I'm not saying dropping it into a military base or anything like that, but I want to put a mission together of Rover out of the aircraft, heading out, bring it back. And I've had some thoughts on how and which way I want to do it, and whether it needs 2 aircraft or not, and having one as a relay station for the radio system. But with HearLink, that's possibly not required anyway because of the range involved that HearLink can do. But Outback Challenge, yeah, the idea was to build a big hex and drop it down. I've been playing with some of the Lewis scripting on Ardupilot as well, and I've come up with some playing with some auto charging stuff, whereas it'll bring the Rover back and charge the battery automatically and stuff like that. But yeah, a bit of an Outback Challenge. Yeah, and that's it. That, you know, I've had this cool idea. I want to do that, and it's not light, so it's gonna take something to lift it, but it's not heavy. You know, whether you just have an aircraft with a tray underneath, and then, you know, it lands, the front of the tray flips down, rover drives off. Camera on board, Scout Rover. It's very much a Scout Rover, the design I've done it. It's low, it's going to have an FPV camera on the front. It's very much a visual Rover, maybe with a dropper on the front, an arm, a clamp, be able to pick something up, collect it, bring it back. But that's whether it will happen. It'd make a great video, that's for sure. So, but if there is any questions, guys, please let me know. So let's get over to the proper camera over here. So I need the Rover again, don't I? So we need that was close. No comments on that one, please. Right. Again, if there's any comments, please put them in, but not about me nearly falling off my chair. Is the Rover tracked? No, it's got massive rubber wheels. Let's show you what we've got. No, she's not. She could be. There's no reason it couldn't, but currently it's got these. And they're crazy. Honestly, this thing is so quick. It's ridiculous as well. It really is. It goes like stink. It really does. So yeah, big rubber. These are very soft as well, very soft. In fact, I'll show you, if you haven't seen, I have some footage of it moving around, and it goes well. It really does go well. It really does. Okay, so this is a risk, what I'm about to do now, and the reason I say it's a risk is I'm about to plug another USB device into my computer. If all of this goes wrong, I will be back. I just have a slight worry, that's all, as I'm streaming, as I'm doing all of this at the same time, of plugging another device in. But we're going to go for it. If I disappear, it will come back, hopefully. So, I've got to plug into the USB first of all, and me being an idiot, put the USB in a very difficult place. But you can have an external USB with the Cube, so there is a way around it. I've just got to shoehorn the connector in. Okay, we're in. Let's check some of the comments. Smoke, yeah, no, behave, Tim, behave. I don't need to break anything else. Yeah, we'll have to go searching for. Yeah, it could make it fully waterproof from the top. She'd sink to the bottom and go, wouldn't she? She really would. She'd be good. Okay, we are in. So, before I come over to the desktop, we need to open Mission Planner. Again, this is very, very risky. Very risky indeed. No. I'm going to connect before I transfer over. Oh, we're in. Oh, what was worrying? Connect. Hopefully, I'm still live. Hopefully, you can still hear me. We're just waiting for it to connect. It looks okay on my phone, so I'm going to pretend it is. Yeah, okay. So we're into Mission Planner. Now this is actually pre-configured, but what I'm going to do is go back through it because there are second. Yes, the audio's back. My fault. Hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. Just check that is back. Still alive? Still alive, or better, alive. Yes, yes, still alive. Just let me know if you can hear this, because I accidentally turned the speaker off then. Trying to stop it turning off, I turned it off. Oh, you couldn't write this stuff. You really couldn't. Okay, so what we have is we've got Ardupilot, Ardurover already installed. If you didn't have it installed, you would need to just go to install firmware. Now you can't do it while it's connected, but you would simply choose Ardurover 4.0, which is the current official build, and install it on your autopilot. As I've already got that on, we don't need to worry about that too much. So we're just going to tell it to reconnect to the car. Now, because this is a purple, it's a little bit slower. If you've used the cube orange, it is like that. It really, really is. It flies. Thank you, Tim. I do appreciate it. Getting there. Now, what I will say is this. When you set up a cube or any autopilot on Ardupilot, there are a number of settings and configurations you need to do. And the first one is the accelerometer calibration. Do this before you fit your autopilot in your vehicle. It is 10 times easier to do it out of the vehicle than it is in. Because when you're doing this calibration, you've got to put the autopilot on its top, upside down, left, right, and every direction. Now you need to do it on a flat surface, but the idea of it is so it knows which way is what. You can do it in vehicle, but it means you've got to hold the vehicle up on a silly angle when you're doing it. It is far easier to do the accelerometer calibration and the calibrate level on a flat bench before you even fit your autopilot. So one of my pieces of advice would be for any Ardupilot based aircraft, car, boat, anything, do the accelerometer calibrations and firmware install on the bench. So get your autopilot, connect it up on the table, install the firmware, do these calibrations first, then go and build your aircraft. That's a top tip for you, that one. Okay, we don't need to do anything with the compass because I currently don't have the GPS connected. If we were having the GPS connected, the thing to always take into account with Ardupilot and especially the cube is there are two compasses in play. Yeah, horizontal, flat. The idea is type is it's horizontal, perfectly flat. You should do it perfectly level as much as possible. You're setting the level of the vehicle, okay, so it knows its level. Now it will trim itself out automatically because if it's not level, it's going to start moving in a direction on a quad, for instance, and it knows that's happening. But you do need it 100% level. Yeah. 100% level. Now, with all of the cubes, they have a built-in compass, so you do need to take into account to make sure the compass orientation is correct. I'm not going to dive into this too deeply. I have a video coming out on compasses on Wednesday. There is a ton to the compass calibration now, especially with multiple compasses, multiple mags, especially with CAN bus as well. There's a lot to it, but just make sure when you're doing your compass setup that you do have it correct. Again, radio calibration in Ardupilot, very straightforward. What I need to do is plug the battery in, 2 seconds, because the USB doesn't power my Hearlink, which means we're not getting RC. No more smoke, let's say. We'll just let that connect. There we go. You can see that the RC now has come up on the screen. So I can adjust. You can see that we're getting all of the inputs doing the correct things. Wheel is working on 14 as well. And this is the modified Hearlink, which with the new wheel I made as well. I got a couple of these to ship out this week. So the RC calibration. And again, in Ardupilot, just to calibrate the radio, it's nice and simple. You just click calibrate. Okay. The extreme position. So you just move all the sticks on the calibration process, and Ardupilot is really easy. You just follow the on-screen instructions, move everything into the extremes, click when done. And the one thing to notice with this, make sure you have the throttle down, because it's telling you to put the throttle stick down. A lot of people miss this with the self-centering throttle. There we go. Nice and easy. So that's the calibration done for the RC. It's nice and simple. Now, the real configuration for the Rover is in the motor outputs or the servo output screen, because this is the important part. This is where you are setting how you want the motor outputs to react. Whether you are using a two-wheeled vehicle with steering, so you could have like 3 wheels, or you would class a two-wheeled vehicle with steering as a normal radio control car. That's the easiest term to use. So 2 wheels propulsion, and then steering is handled by a servo moving the wheels left and right or doing it differently. Skid steering would be left wheel and right wheel independently controlled. And then the steering is as a result of the orientation of those wheels. So left wheel forward, right wheel backwards, and the vehicle would pivot round if it was 2, or if it's 4, it's exactly the same. Now you do also have paddle mode option as well. Now what paddle mode is, rather than have it throttle up puts both forward, throttle down puts both backward, your left will cause it to rotate left, your right would cause it to rotate right. Paddle is simply left stick is left set of wheels, right stick is right set of wheels, both up to go forward, both down to go backwards. So you do need to take into account which setup you want. You've got 2 overall motor controls with 2 control types on skid, paddle or single stick. I have it set up for single stick. I don't have it in, I think they call it tank mode, where you have 2 forward, 2 back, and then to steer you'd go forward and back on opposites on the sticks. For me, I have it set up as left stick is forward and back, right stick is yaw, and that's how I have it set up on mine. I don't use the 1 stick for it, I have it across 2, just like a normal radio control vehicle. Now under here is where you set what the outputs actually do. Under the function, ew, it's looking not correct. It's interesting. Let's pull that back down again. It should have the drop down options there. Again guys, if you've got any questions while you're doing it, when I'm doing this, please do put them in the comments. It's weird that the prams haven't pulled down properly. This could be giving me jip because of the sheer amount of USB devices I've got plugged in today. Ew, look at this. Squash, not beer, unfortunately. Just orange squash. Very strange. What we're going to do is reopen Mission Planner. There's got to be a Mission Planner glitch. That has to be. Nav is no better. This is probably the first glitch I've had in Ardupilot for months. It doesn't help, I'm actually using a beta version of the software as well, so it could actually be that. There's a reason I'm using a beta. I bet you it's because I'm using a beta. Let me bring it on stable. See, this is what happens. I didn't check it beforehand. Didn't do any pre-checking to make sure it's right. iNav's no better, but I am using some various versions. Let's just see if it pulls down the latest one. We'll give it a second. Mr. Murphy, he's always letting Murphy's little, yes. Yeah, I've got a beta version on here because I was testing the new compass features in Ardupilot. So I was testing that. I've gone to the wide one, I think, haven't I? Have we gone to the wide camera? Yeah, we've gone to the wide one. I'm just waiting for it to download. Yeah, I was testing the new compass features, which aren't in the standard release yet. we'll just let this update. Again, risky doing this live, but we will see how it ends up. Okay, we're back up and running. Let's put you on that one. Let's see if it works now, shall we? It's very possible it was my beta version that was causing it, because I hadn't actually tried it with Rover. I was using it on Copter. Configs, setup, mandatory hardware, servo outputs. Yay! It was the beta software. It's my fault. My fault. Okay, back to where we were at. Not happen normally, Bruce. Doesn't happen normally. Okay, so what we've got is our motor controls, and here is where you would set the kind of motor output. So whether it be throttle left and throttle right for each motor. Now this isn't the input, this is the outputs from the Autopilot to the motor controller. So for instance, in my setup, it's set up throttle left and throttle right, which means servo output 1 goes to one set of wheels, servo output 3 goes to the other set of wheels. They do it as 1 and 3 as standard, but you could use 1 and 2 if you wanted to use 1 and 2. If you wanted to do it the other way, you then have the differential steering. Where is it? You've got a couple of options actually. You've got RC pass-through, so that would literally allow you to do it in tank mode. If you did RC pass-through, you could then just do the tank mode with the 2 sticks. So you can say RC pass-through, and RC pass-through would be S bus 1 would go to servo output 1, S bus 2 to servo output 2, S bus 3 to servo output 3. And vice versa. Or then you've got differential steering, and then you've got, where is the other one? You've got the standard motor outputs. Then you've just got throttle. So if you set throttle to number 1, so that would just be forward, would go forward, and then you've got steering beta. Yes, we all pronounce. And then you've got steering. So if you wanted to do it on, say, a traditional radio control car, what you would do is set throttle on number 1, and then steering on, where is it? Just find it. It'll be here somewhere. Ground steering. There it is. Ground steering on 3. And then you would just simply connect your motor controller, ESC, to number 1, and then your steering servo to number 3. However, when you're using it with 2 sets of wheels and 2 controls, so for me it's throttle, throttle left, and throttle right, and that's then simply the setup for the motor outputs. Now there is a page on Ardupilot specifically for this that's worth checking out. They do explain it quite well actually. I've got it open here under the first time setup. Where is it? Configuration. Transmitter mode, motor and servo configuration. I think it's system overview. Where's fish drive? Where's the steering traps? Is it motor and servo configuration? Yeah, it's under the motor and servo, skid steering, omni vehicle, motor driver types. So they've got it all listed here as well. It's fairly straightforward. It's not massively difficult to configure. And here you can just set it to either separate steering and throttle, which was what I was saying about earlier, which is ground steering and throttle. You then got skid steering, throttle left, throttle right, which I am. And then you've got the Omni vehicles, which is just the 2-wheeled ones on their own. Or the 4-wheeled ones, if you want to move 4 independent controls, you've got those ones as well. So that's as straightforward as that. Now that is the basic main configuration for the Rover. It is literally that simple. And the biggest ones is the motor outputs. That's what confuses people every time on these. It really is. Now, as with everything with Ardupilot, you've got all of the other settings, ESC types, flight modes. So they're not flight modes in this. They're ground station modes. You've got your fail-safe settings. Yes. Your hardware IDs for the hardware that's attached. This is all quite new in Ardupilot as well, and it's worth having a good play with this because it shows you now all of the IDs of everything that's on board. But really, with Rover, the main important things, and I'll come to the full camera for this, the main important things on Rover is making sure that you've got your steering set correctly and making sure you've done your calibrations. And it is that simple. It really, really is. The biggest issue people come up against in Rover is the steering type and not fully understanding which way to actually do the steering, whether to do it left and right like I've got it, or whether to do it like that. Now that is the basic configuration of a Rover. It really is. Now there is something you do need to do on a Rover after you've set it up, and there are many modes in Rover. You've got RC pass-through, which means it will just pass the RC straight through from your receiver, straight through to the motors. You've then got manual mode, which is a proportional output from the controller. Again, virtually the same as RC pass-through, but you can set the limits on it. So, for instance, in RC pass-through, if your 1500 PWM is middle, 2000 is full, 1000 is minimum. Whereas manual mode, it's proportional. So 50% becomes 50%, but you can configure how it reacts and things like that. And then you've got guided mode and acro mode, and they are the modes that the autopilot uses to actually navigate by itself, but control the outputs of the Rover as well. But before you do that, you need to actually do some calibration on the Rover, and Ardupilot have a page on this, and you do need to make sure you do it. And the basic calibration is, where is it? Let me just go down. It's that first time setup, and it's configuration. Setup assembly. I'm trying to remember what they call it. Accelerometer calibration? No, it's not the first drive. Here it is. Tuning, speed and throttle. This is quite an important process because this tells the autopilot how quick the vehicle is able to turn, so yaw rate. It also tells it how fast it's able to accelerate, and it actually puts some limits on them as well. And the idea of this is when it's in an autonomous mode, it's able to control its speed. Because remember, when you're in a manual mode, you, the pilot, I'll use the word pilot, but you, the controller, are controlling how fast the vehicle moves. In autonomous modes, it needs some baselines in place. Now this tuning, speed and throttle tells it how fast it's able to turn, and you do just a couple of drives. It's a simple thing, and there's a video on doing it actually here. With Tridge at the bottom, and you simply follow it through. It takes about 10 minutes, and it sets the PIDs. There's basically no PIDs on a Rover, but it sets them, the ones it needs to, and the basic PIDs on a Rover is how fast it's able to turn and the yaw rate, and how fast it's able to accelerate. And then you still got the D term then as well, and the D is how close to the requested speed the Rover actually achieves, and how fast, just like a normal PID, it changes to be able to maintain that speed. Because remember, whenever you have a PID, the idea is, it wants to do that speed, it needs to get to that speed, but what it often does is that as it gets up to it, and your P term, your D term and your I term is how fast it goes to get to that speed, how fast it actually bounces either side of it, and how much feedback and everything. I'm not going to get into PIDs now, but this basically sets the PIDs, so you do need to do it. But that's the basic setup of Ardurover, and it is that simple, apart from when you're using beta software which doesn't connect properly. So that's why, Bruce, that's why. If you guys have any questions on that, let me know. But the three main important things are: get your steering right on Ardurover, make sure you've got the configured right, make sure you configure your autopilot outside the aircraft or the Rover before you do it, and then once you get your steering correct, follow this process, and once that's done, it's a breeze. It really is that forward to set up. Now, I know Bruce mentioned iNav. Does iNav do Rover, Bruce, if you're still there? Yeah, Phil, I'd love to get RTK on it. It's just cost. I'm going to be using the Here 2 GPS. With the object sensing on the front, which I'm going to have, or the rangefinder, it will give it some level of navigation. Bendy ruler works and will give me some auto thing. I'll be honest, right? The Here 2 is very accurate. Yes, RTK is better, okay, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Olga in a drone. I wish I never had traditional heli. Yeah, I've not flown iNav much. I know Bruce is a big fan of iNav, and it is very good. Look, there's no question iNav isn't very good at all. It really isn't. What vehicles do they getting started? Multi-rotor guide, fixed wing guide. So does iNav do Rover now? It'd be a shame if it didn't. I think it's right up its street. Let's be honest, it's right up its street. The big thing with Ardupilot is the ability for all of the mission planning and configuration. There's just so much you can do on it. There really, really is. It does it? Let's have a look. Multi-rotor guide. iNav moves. I didn't know iNav did Rover. I see a pull request from 2017. Yeah. Initial boat and rover support. Yes, it was brought in with 2.5. Okay. Oh, no, sorry, it wasn't. Ignore me. Rover. Initial rover support. So when was that? That was brought in. Yeah, iNav 2.5. So what is the latest version of iNav? Oh, on it. So it's the new one. Sorry, it's literally just in there. Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. That's a video to play with there. Sorry, I'm just reading it. Your steering only, okay. Yeah, so it'll work on my Rover, fine. Cool. Okay, that's very cool. That's very cool indeed. So they've got position out, how cruise launch. What is mission planning like in iNav? I've not done it for a very long time. We can return to home will work as well. Very cool. Very, very cool. Didn't know that. Well, I've learnt something tonight. I've learnt something tonight. Okay. Very cool indeed. Okay. A couple of other things I want to talk to you guys about. And again, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments and I will answer them. And really, just before I move off Rover, that really is as simple as it is. It really is that easy in Ardupilot. Yes, we had a problem, Bruce. It happens. To be fair, that was very much of my own making because I was using the beta version of Mission Planner. Public version, straight through, no problem at all. So that was pretty much it. And as I've said, the main configuration issues, just disconnecting the light bulb before it goes on fire. The main configuration issues with Ardurover is really the steering. And that's literally it. And you don't actually have to do those PID configuration if you're not using autonomous modes. If you're just driving it, you don't need to do it at all. You only need the PID configuration for the autonomous modes just so it knows the yaw rate and how fast it can turn and move and things like that. And then you can set up maximum speed, transition speed as well from stop to full speed and things like that. But you can also set that within the motor controller as well if you need to in the Sabertooth. Okay. Let me just bring this up. The next thing I was going to talk about is not really related to drones. It's actually storage, and I'm intrigued how many of you guys out there have got NASes, whether you're using... hi Alex, how are you doing? I'm looking for some new storage options on my channel because I've built up an awful lot of footage that I need to do something about. I'm building up a lot of data, and I've been waiting for someone to create the next bit of the world, but he still hasn't done it yet. I don't know if he's still listening. He's probably gone off. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what you guys know. I'm thinking of either, I'm looking at NASes, but I'm also looking at building a NAS with FreeNAS, and I'm just intrigued if you guys have come across any of these at all. FreeNAS is quite interesting. I just have a big pile of 1 and 2 terabyte hard drives. Yeah, I'll be honest, that's my problem, Bruce. I currently have, I have four 4 terabyte drives, 2 2 terabyte drives, and a couple of SSDs. And I need to get it all in one place and backed up. And I can't decide whether to buy a NAS or build one. And I don't know if anyone's come across FreeNAS. I've installed it on a very old machine over there in the corner to have a play with over the last week, and I'm really impressed with it. But it is something that becomes an issue when you are doing these things and you end up recording more and more data and don't know what to do with it. I need, you have all of the family stuff and you have all of that stuff that you want to back up as well. And yeah, hard drives fail eventually, and that's the concern. Don't buy SMR drives. SMRs? Which ones are SMRs? You don't mean NAS drives? SMR, I'm not sure the SMR too. Ah, yes. Right, okay. B buys a big article about this. Beware that 2608 NAS drive you've been eyeing might be SMR. Yeah, and this is my concern, is about having some big failure. So I need to do something. I'm actually... tune magnetic recording, yeah, very slow. Yeah, I'll be honest, if I build a free NAS, I am going to use standard drives because I'm not convinced the cost savings of a NAS drive is worth it, if I'm honest. And as long as you've got enough redundancy in it, it shouldn't be an issue anyway. The nice thing about FreeNAS, and what the real nice thing about it, and it is a bit complicated, Phil, I know exactly what you mean. I've spent 2 days getting my head around it. And once I got my head around data pools and all of that crap, you do realise how powerful it is. And the real nice thing is you can use any drive of any size in a pool with FreeNAS, so you don't have to say have 4 terabyte drives. You can create a pool of a 4, a 2, and a 1, and then work out how you want that to be backed up and stripped and mirrored, and it has some cool options on it like that. I've just been trying to decide, because looking at the costing on this, a NAS itself is going to be about 400 quid for a 4-bay NAS. For a QNAP one, I've been looking on QNAP, and the one that suits my needs is about 380 quid. Yeah, exactly, Bruce, and that's the problem. Funny enough, yeah, and that's where my USB drives still come in, because all of those drives are going to be backing that up. Yeah, for me, this isn't about having the data today. For me, there's 2 types of data here. I have data of my family, which I will be devastated if we lose. I've had this happen years ago. I have the channel data, which I'll be honest, if I lost it, I'd be bloody annoyed, but I'd move on in a day. So for me, there's two data sets here I'm concerned about. I've got client data, which I don't keep long term. I make sure anything I do for people, they get it and it's on their head. And that's how I do things on that. For me, it's about having my data to do something other than backup, but also having a backup if I need it. Yeah, I know NAS and RAID is not the same. Yeah, the nice thing about FreeNAS is you can literally set it up to do anything, and that's what I'm thinking. There's only one downside to FreeNAS, if anyone comes about it. It doesn't appear you can easily back it up to USB drives. You've got to tell it to do snapshots and things like that. You can't just say, can you take all that data and toss it on that 8 terabyte drive as well? You've got to, but you can set up multiple pools, which might be an idea. But I haven't decided. I was just interested in people's thoughts because I've seen some horror stories on some of these NASs. If I'm going to spend £400 on one, I've seen some horror stories on 3 years later of them failing. And, you know, that's hardware down the drain. For 300 quid, no, sorry, for 200 quid, I can build a Celeron PC, brand new, which will take 4 drives with unlimited expandability with another card. So that's what I've been thinking about doing, rather than a NAS enclosure. You know, you can build, you know, it's like 110 quid for the motherboard, the CPU and the RAM. It's pennies. It really is. But no, it was just, I was intrigued to see Phil Hunter. Yeah, so I need 2 NAS builds. Yeah, potentially. Or I keep them in the same box. What you appear to be, when you are spending money on a NAS, as much as what you're spending is on the out-the-box experience, plugging it in, chucking the drives in, letting it go. That seems to be the thing. Okay, if there's any questions, guys, whilst I am looking, right, what have I got on my little list? What have I got on my little list? Equipment. Right, I'm going to pick the other camera up a minute. I've gone handheld. This thing, all right, let me focus for you. This thing I absolutely love. It is not cheap, okay? It is ridiculously expensive for what it is. However, after having it a week, I have to say, it is a very, very handy bit of kit. It really, really is. It really is. It's a very, very handy bit of kit indeed. Now, something else I'm going to mention, if anyone had seen a video on the channel, and I'm going to see, let's go back to PC cam. My LEDs are working again, Bruce. And I think I know what was wrong. Yes, it's entirely pointless, I know, but my LEDs are actually working again, and I think it was a loose connector. I think it was a loose connector on the Corsair. I think it was a loose connector. So yeah. So I'm handheld in GH5. I say, shall I give it? Let's give you guys a bit of a tour of the. You've seen what it looked like from a distance. Equipment-wise, what I'm actually using. I'm going to be doing a video on this at some point. I keep meaning to talk to Bruce about it. What's the battery on the GH5 doing? Let's have a look. Oh, it's doing all right. It's doing all right. The Sony's done okay because I've had it on power. So okay. So what I've been using, as I said earlier, equipment-wise, what we've been using is my main filming camera I use every day is this. It's the Panasonic GH5. This has just come back from repair. I had to send it in. Had some dust under the OPLF. the bloody AA filter. So it ended up having to go back to Panasonic, and they've changed the sensor on it for me, very kindly under warranty. So a massive, massive shout out to Panasonic UK for me sending it in for repair, because there was a massive particle of dust under the AA filter on the GH5. You can't get it off. I don't know if, for those of you who don't know, on the GH5 you've got an optical low pass filter, OPLF, optical low pass filter, which helps with aliasing. Basically, it's sealed, so in theory between it and the sensor nothing should be able to get in, but it did on mine, and I had a massive particle of dust, and anything above F11 I couldn't use it for photography. It was just a massive dot. So the camera is 18 months old, genuine, Panasonic, bought in the UK. It was sent to DAVS, I think it is, in the UK, the Panasonic dealers, and I sent it on a Tuesday, and it arrived back on a Friday, the Friday last week. So I sent it Tuesday last week, it landed back with me Friday, and they put a new sensor in it. So my main camera I use is the GH5. Then my other camera, manually focusing, I'm doing this on, is a Sony a6400. Now it's a little bit dark here now. Shall I wait there 1 second? Let's go. Boom. There you go. It's not the ISO up a notch. The Sony a6400 I've been doing all of my other filming on. Then is the HD60 located down by there, and then the Elgato, the other card, is hiding in there. Now what I have been doing is building up the Workbench a little bit. Just to show you guys this as well, I have been building up the Workbench a little bit, and we're getting some new equipment. I'm waiting on some more to come, so let's just show you guys what we have actually got over here, and let's get it in focus, because I am manually focusing. We've got my charging area over here in the corner where I charge all the equipment. It's got to go somewhere. It's all my camera batteries, everything like that. I've got my solder station, which is from Antex in the UK. I'm a massive fan. I've been using Antex soldering irons since I was 9 years old. I have about 8 or 9 of them. There's one hiding there, look, up there, small one. There's one there. I just love their soldering irons. Sorry, it's the focus zooming in when I hit that. I just love the soldering irons. I really do. And they've got this solder station, and it's ideal for me. Absolutely ideal. I've bought a used bench power supply. I bought a used one, because I couldn't afford a new one. And let's have a look what I got. What is it? Let's show you guys what it actually is. It is... In fact, what we'll do is we'll get back onto autofocus, and we won't have to worry about it then. It is, who's it made by? EA. It's a German company. It's a good power supply, but it's got a few quirks, and it's got a real quirk that annoys me, in that the voltage is always 0.05 off the rounded value. So for instance, if it always goes to 4.95 volt, never 5, then 5.95, then 6.95, then 7.95. It's really frustrating, really frustrating. Then on the bench we have, zooming out for you guys, we've just got the standard rubber mat, and we've got these. Now I made these for myself. I've not showed these before. Let me show you guys these, okay. These are just equipment storage tubs for the bench, and the idea is that when I'm working on stuff, I've got somewhere to put all of the little bits that when you take something apart. So, you know, if I look up there, I've got all sorts in bits at the moment, but the idea is just to have somewhere to put everything. And I made these up. I designed them and 3D printed them, but they also stack as well. So you can stack them height-wise. So if you want to, you can clip them together height-wise, or you can stack them height-wise with some printed brackets which I've got, which they'll just slot into. And the idea is it's just equipment drawers, because I'm always working on 1 or 2 bits at the same time, and that's what they are, and I need them. We've then got the oscilloscope in the corner. Now, this was sent over by Telonic, a UK dealer. I really appreciate the support they've given us on that one. We're doing some videos with them, and it's currently on loan to me. So I'm really impressed with it, actually. It's a real handy bit of kit. It really, really is. I'm waiting on a new bench power supply that I've ordered from China for about $130. Not sure when that's going to arrive in the current situation. It's one of the ones that gets okay reviews. I have done my homework on it, but I am going to do a teardown video when it comes to be able to show you guys, because it'll be interesting to see how it actually is. SG Electronics, there's a YouTube channel, he stripped it down. There's a couple of people who have stripped it, and it's known to be okay. It's known to be okay. It's not brilliant, but it's okay. But then, so that's got to go on the bench. We've got the scope, then we've got the Prusa, which is the new printer, with some very nice, look at the colour of that, guys. Look at that. That is sparkly, pearlescent purple for my daughter. We've then got that one, and then we've just got the Rover, the build, which is, this is the aircraft I'm using on the Ardupilot build at the moment. That's the aircraft I'm doing on that one, and you'll see the videos for that one this week. This is my large DJI. I built that. That was a monster when I built it. I've stripped it down now. It was an amazing quad. It was ridiculously overpowered. It's the same propulsion set as on an Inspire on that aircraft, and 12-inch props off the top of my head, and it was just it didn't have enough weight in it. It was so overpropped, it was ridiculous. It really was. And then when I shift around there, you've just got the rest of the equipment in the corner. The side off the PC, obviously, with the Rover and the drink, and then you've just got that area there. So that's really just a bit of the walk around of the room, and then underneath you just got all the crap. You've just got all of the crap. My other older 3D printer down there, my Creator Pro. I don't know what to do with it now. Let me switch you guys over to that camera. I don't know what to do with the Creator Pro now, because it's just not getting used. The idea was to keep it for... what was I going to keep it for? I was going to keep it for ABS, but it hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out. Now, the goal is going to be, just to give you an idea, if I fit this, I'll just quickly do this, and this is what we will see when I get myself when I get myself a proper streaming, because I've got a bit of a plan to this, which I want to do. But the idea of this will be, when we're working properly, is we'll have the bench like this. And to show you that, if I now switch over, you should then see it like that. And then the nice thing is, when we're going to be using the Panasonic, the nice thing with the Pani is I'm going to be able to zoom in. We'll then have the ability to get right in and close on things, and then start doing some stuff properly on the bench. That way, I've got to sort the lighting out. The lighting is not ideal at the moment. I need to put some lights along underneath the workbench area along the top there. But that's one of the jobs to do once I manage to sort it out. Right, let me just get this cable out of the way from the GH5. Get back on there. Okay, guys, where's my phone? I've put it down. Let's get to the comments. Yeah, I have spoke to them, actually, on the PSU, and they've said the display is reading actual voltage output, not selected, but it didn't make sense from the way I've tested it, in the sense of, it felt to me it's the steps, because this is where it gets really weird. At 0.1 volt steps, it's fine. From 1 to 2 volt, it's fine. So you click from 1 to 2. But when you go from 2 to 3, it goes 2 to 2.95, then 3.95, then 4.95. Bit strange. Bit strange. Barbecue pit. So, that's about it, guys. For me, the next couple of weeks the plan is to go live a bit more regularly. I'm going to try and keep the Sunday one up. I'm going to be doing a few more random ones in the sense of try and do some stuff on them. Try and put some stuff on them as well. And we'll... hopefully I'll have a new flight controller coming soon, so we'll be taking a look at that. I've got a couple of little things I want to start doing. I've got some things I want to do which YouTube won't think very well as well. Let's have a look. I missed my Cheese 300 stream. Pushed the button on it last week. Hi mate. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's interesting on the 300. I've not heard a lot of noise. For an aircraft that's available, I really don't know how many have gone out and bought that. I'm not seeing much at all. I saw an M210 fell out the sky again this week, but I don't know the details of it. There's been an interesting video on the Mavic. In fact, two interesting things on the Mavic Air 2. That video where the gentleman doesn't like it. There's a lot of good points in his video, but his talk about creators isn't 100% correct in my opinion. But Original Dobo has crashed his, or it's crashed. To be fair, you have to put balance. I don't know. From I've seen his tweets, it went up and then it came back down. And he's been saying a bit on Twitter about it. But we're going to have to see what DJI do about that one. Other than that, there's some sales on the Ronin series at the moment, which could hint maybe something's coming in the future. So it's a great time to order a Ronin SC if you're interested in getting one. There's some good discounts on them at the moment. But with regards to the M300, I just haven't seen much talk at all. Not much talk at all. Anyways, that is going to be it for this one, guys. If you have any questions before I sign off, please do put them in the comments. Let me have a look at YouTube on this one. If anyone is watching this and isn't a subscriber to the channel, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. I've dumped Patreon because it just doesn't work for me. I'm no longer using Patreon anymore because I had a couple of people support, a couple of people cancel. There are some links in the description of the videos. If anyone wants to support the channels, check them out. Something I have said is I need to get a bit more realistic on what I intend to do over the next couple of months. No, that's the one for the gimbal. That's the Ronin there, the Ronin SC there. So it's a gimbal for mirrorless cameras. Yeah, the bench is getting there. I'm fairly pleased. I'm getting there. It is an expensive thing. You know, I priced up an entire rack of Siglent gear to put across there, and it was like 1,300 quid. I can't afford to spend £1,300, you know, not on the income I have on the channel. So the idea is to slowly build the gear up. I wanted a better multimeter than the one I've ordered out and out. It would have been nice to have ordered, but it is amazing how expensive benchtop multimeters are from genuine make. It's astonished me how expensive they are. You know, they are £400 UK money. That's $600 conversion, roughly. Benchtop meters are crazy. What is what DJI? DJI have the Osmo Mobile for the smartphones, and then the Ronin series is for cameras. Yeah, Osmo Mobile. Osmo Mobile 3, I think it is, as of today. So I'm slowly building the gear up. I would have been nice. I'll show you which one I've ordered, actually. Banggood. Let me stick it up. Let's have a look. I've ordered it from Banggood. Workbench. It comes up fairly quickly. I can't remember if I ordered it from Banggood or AliExpress. There it is, the ET3240. The ET3240. Now it gets good reviews. It gets decent reviews. There's two versions of this. There's this version, the 3240, and there's a 3260 that has a higher range. I think a higher accuracy range is the only difference between them. However, the 3260 is butchered. They took a 3240 and put wires all over it inside. There's a good review on it, and it's totally butchered. I saw the review video and it was far from ideal. Far from ideal. However, I've ordered the 3240. I'm waiting for it to come. I have no idea when it's going to come. I ordered it at least... Let's have a look. There it is. When did I order it? 19th of May. So I haven't had it yet. So we're just waiting at this moment in time. As you can see, it was paid for. So it's, yeah, we're just waiting for that one to come through, and hopefully it will appear fairly soon. Hopefully it'll turn up fairly soon. And that's about it, guys. So first of all, thank you for watching. I hope it was a little bit different today. The idea is to try and do it a bit like this. I wanted to try out the equipment today as much as anything. I wanted to see how it behaved. We made it through the stream. Okay, that's interesting. In Germany. So mine's probably... It's a couple of 100 miles from you in Germany. So, yeah, it's probably en route then. Might get it this week then. That'll be good. If I can get it this week, it'll be cool. It'd be nice. It'd be really nice. Yeah, I wanted... Today it was as much as a test of the equipment for me as anything as well. I wanted to push it all to the limit tonight to check the PC behaved. The temperature is in here. I am sweating. It is nuts in the workshop at the moment. I want to get another streaming card just so I can... I have a plan on the... I don't need the camera over there. That was just a bit of a setup just to show you guys. But the idea for me is to actually have two at the bench. There's no general text never delivered that fast. Yeah, snowflake. I hope you're feeling better, Bruce, by the way. But yeah, I've got a bit of a plan over there for the two cameras, but we'll see. If I can actually get hold of another streaming card, I will. I'm not going to be in any rush for it. But yeah, and that was really it. But no, if you are watching, you're not a subscriber, please do consider hitting that button. As I said earlier, I've stopped using Patreon. I'm not using it at all now. If anybody wants to make me a coffee, there's links in the description, but I don't... It's at the end of the day... YouTube pays me hundreds of thousands of pounds per live stream. That's why we do these things, you know. I've ordered another Ferrari off the back of this one today. So yeah, make the most of the weather. It'd be nice to get out. I'm gonna head out and about this week. It's hard to build a drone outside, but I haven't flown. This has been part of the problem. I haven't flown for so long. Yeah, you know, I stopped all work. I stopped everything. It's not my primary income anyway. My PFCO renewal is due from next 2 weeks. The PFCO renewal is due, so I've got to get that done. I'm actually tempted not to. I really am tempted not to. I don't know what to do. And... yeah, it was good to see. But no, thank you for that, guys. I do appreciate the kind words. It's nice to see it worked out. I know I need to change on the audio. I know what the problem is, and it's the creative system. And I've been with... holding back from doing it, but I need to do the change I need to do. So that's it. Right, guys, I want to thank you all for watching. I wish you all a fantastic week. Wherever you are, stay safe. The world is a bit of a crazy place still today. We've drifted from the madness we had with COVID into some other madness in some countries, and I hope it all settles down. I watched the SpaceX launch yesterday and today and was blown away. Absolutely buzzing after it. Really sat down with my kids and watched it as well. It's fantastic. It's great to see in my lifetime that kicking off again. To me, it felt like it must have felt the first time. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So that's it. We're going to end it. Thank you, guys. Take it easy. I'm going to hit 2 buttons. I'm going to do a hold button, which will hold, and then I'm going to tell YouTube to kill the stream. Stay safe. Thank you, Jim, and good evening, guys.